Welcome to our podcast, Between the Fence Posts, where we discuss all things related to agriculture and how they impact our local communities here in East Tennessee. Whether you're a farmer, gardener, or just looking for some updates about the ag world, we're glad you're here with us. Give us a like and subscribe to receive updates for our latest content. Thanks again for being here. Now, let's get into our next episode. All right, well, good morning to you. My name is Ryan Brown. I'm your host of our new podcast called Between the Fence Posts. We're going to talk a lot of different things agriculture starting this year here in 2025 for Jefferson County Extension. And just real quick, just wanted to give everybody kind of an overview of what this podcast is going to be, some of the content we're going to probably roll out this year. It's not meant to replace anything that we already do. Like, I know I do some newsletters for livestock and forage production, things like that. That was a monthly thing. I probably am going to cut back on that just a little bit. But podcasts are kind of the in thing right now. It seems like everybody and their mama has a podcast or starting one, something of that nature. But I thought we would do something a little bit different and provide some audio updates and some full-length episodes as well on various kinds of topics. It could be anywhere from production ag, may do some lawn and garden type segments as well, but want to provide a little bit different flavor and different variety for folks out there. That way we provide a lot more diverse content and information that's coming out of our office, but in a different way, in a digital setting and an audio type scenario. But anyway, kind of overview of the podcast here. I want to give you a basic frame of what it's going to be like every episode or update. I plan on having some local updates as well, meetings that might be going on for the general public, things of that nature, and some other special interest topics or meetings that might be happening for anybody out there who might be interested as well. Then I also want to give a market report or update. Our economists in the Ag Econ department down in Knoxville, Dr. Andrew Griffith and Dr. Aaron Smith, they both give their weekly market highlights and comments for livestock and crop production. And so that's something I want to highlight because that's something that impacts not just producers or farmers, it impacts everybody in some shape, form, or fashion, whether you're somebody going and buying stuff off the grocery store shelf or you're buying direct from a producer, or if you're producing the product, obviously, that impacts you quite a bit. So I want to give a market update, and that's kind of how we're going to structure things. And then I want to have some also timely topics if we don't have a full-length episode, some tips and tricks we can give for everywhere from production ag to gardening and then lawns and landscapes. I want to kind of hit all three prongs there in each and every episode or update where we don't have a guest speaker or a guest on the podcast here. So, with that being said, let's go ahead as our first inaugural episode. I want to go ahead and give a market update. And these are numbers as of February 21st, 2025. If you don't know where to find these numbers and this data, you can find it always online on the UT Ag Econ website. I will actually post a link in the description below here on YouTube. And then for those who are listening on other platforms, may have to go to YouTube to find that, or maybe we can get it in the description box on that platform of your choice. Excuse me. But anyway, this is where you can find that data, but this is basically hot off the press from last Friday, okay? And it is a Monday when we're recording this, so it's not too old a data here. All right, so based on our livestock comments from Dr. Griffith here, trends for the week, and this is basically what I'm going to go over. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but for the livestock side of things, slaughter cows, bulls, feeder steers, feeder heifers, really there were no trends from a week ago, so I'm going to read the trends that were listed last week from February 14th. Slaughter cows were $1 to $3 higher. Slaughter bulls remained steady at around the same price. Feeder steers were $3 to $6 lower. Feeder heifers were $5 to $7 lower. Feeder cattle index was 274.42. And fed cattle, the 5 area live price on Thursday of $202.84 was down $4.27 compared to last week, which would have been February 7th. $320.62. Dress down $6.57. So fed cattle were a little down. Before that, let's see here. And his update about that from the 21st was the 5-area live price on Thursday was $199.61, down $3.23 compared to the 14th, which I just read you. So, and then dress was down $5.34. So again, fed cattle are going down just a little bit there. And then I'll read Dr. Smith's updates about crop production here. March closed at $4.91 a bushel, down 5 cents from the previous closing. Soybeans, March closed at $10.39 a bushel, actually up 3 cents from the previous Friday. Wheat closed at $5.90 a bushel, down 10 cents from the previous Friday. And then cotton, March closed at 66 and 8 cents per pound, down 1.03 cents since last Friday. Okay. All right. So there's a little bit of your market highlights there. I know overall cattle production has been a little different over the last year, maybe year and a half, just because feeder calf prices have been soaring. They've been really, really good lately. Ironically, I'm actually putting on and teaching a freezer beef short course right now through our office, and there's not a ton of people doing freezer beef right now that are new to the game, because it's really hard to justify the cost sometimes, unless that is a big part of your income and big part of your business plan and marketing plan. So cattle are doing really, really good right now. So if you've got some calves that are ready, it's hard to beat the price you're getting at the market for them right now. All right, so let's dive into some local updates here. Jefferson County Livestock Association spring meeting will be Monday, March the 10th at 6:30 p.m. If you're a member, you should have received a letter with a membership update. So make sure you've gotten that in the mail from us. If you are not a member, sorry, you did not get that in the mail from JCLA. But if you want to become a member, please give us a call. I'll be glad to help walk you through that process and how to get involved in our local association here in Jefferson County. But again, that spring meeting is March the 10th at 6:30 p.m. I know some people have been asking about the co-op mineral meeting. I talked to Mr. Mark Pettit the other day, and they have not yet set that spring mineral meeting date just yet. So whenever I have that, I will roll that out to y'all. And that's pretty much all the updates I have locally going on right now. We're not really into the busy spring season just yet. It is February 24th when we're recording this episode here. So we're just on the cusp of spring, which brings me to a lot of our timely topics we're going to talk about here for just a couple minutes. And again, I want to be as brief as possible, not make a long episode here to start us off, but kind of give you a glimpse of what we have coming up in maybe the next couple days and the next couple weeks, really, really fast here. All right, so for production ag, we're going to talk really fast about some pasture and hayfield weed control and fertilizing. We are getting to the point of the year where our cool season broadleaf weeds are about to be really susceptible to some herbicide applications and weed control methods of that nature. So if you have, anything from curly dock to buttercups to buckhorn or broadleaf plantain, thistles, things like that, your cool season broadleaf weeds, this is a great time of year to be looking for them, to be preparing to spray. Make sure you calibrate your sprayer and get your equipment set up right, the way you don't have any failures or issues after the fact before it's too late. So just be sure you're scouting your fields, looking around there and seeing what you've got. Make sure you identify the right target species and make sure you choose the right chemical and follow the label directions from there on out. Okay. And then fertility also comes into play right now. We have the spring flush of tall fescue, which is our predominant grass here in our pastures and hayfields in the state of Tennessee, particularly in East Tennessee. So looking at fertilizing some of those. Pastures will probably start a little earlier just because we want to shorten that hay season a little bit faster, and then fertilizing some hayfields around that late March, 1st of April time frame, hoping for a cutting couple weeks after that in that May time frame there. So be looking for that on the horizon there, and making sure you're on top of those fertility programs and utilizing some herbicides if you need to in a pasture and hayfield scenario. All right, let's move on to garden prep real fast for vegetable gardening here. Big thing on a lot of people's mind is seed starting and buying seeds and those kind of supplies right now. Doing a lot of the prep work, making sure that you go ahead and order your seeds from your supplier, whoever you may choose. I know there's a ton of local vendors here in the county and outside of the county, but also there's a plethora of people you can order seed from online now as well. Regardless of who you choose, make sure you are choosing varieties that are well suited for our area, but also make sure that you go ahead and order those seeds and get them before they run out, because certain varieties, if they have a low supply, they will run out here in the next couple weeks. So make sure you go ahead and get that done and get that off your to-do list. Also, soil testing, talking about fertility in pastures and hayfields, same thing in a garden scenario. Make sure you go ahead and get a soil test. It's an easy $15-$20 if you do it through our office here at the extension office. But regardless of who you do it through, make sure you get a soil test. It can save you a lot of money, potentially, and a lot of headache down the road. I see and deal with a lot of issues where, it's a pH issue or maybe something related to soil fertility that could have been avoided by getting a simple soil test in the first place. So, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of recovery. I forget how that saying goes exactly, but, it's worth your money and worth your time and effort to go ahead and do that, right? So make sure you go ahead and get that done. If you haven't done one in the last year or so, make sure you go ahead and pull a soil test. All right, lawns and landscapes. Finally, last but not least, for sure. Lawns and landscapes. A couple chores we got to do in the next couple weeks and months here. Fertilizing our cool season lawns, particularly, again, fescue is the dominant grass species here in a hay pasture scenario, but also in a lawn and landscape scenario in our lawns here in East Tennessee. So fertilizing those fescue lawns probably around that mid to late March time frame, just as that spring flush is starting to happen. And maintenance of your equipment, sharpening blades, changing the oil in your mowers and your weed eaters and things like that. And then last tip that I'll give, and this is kind of a hard one for me to talk about on a podcast, particularly without talking with somebody in person, is resisting the urge to plant like a woody perennial in the landscape, so a shrub, a tree, things like that. Resisting the urge to plant that in the springtime if possible. The reason for that is if you do it, say now or even into later part of March, then if we turn off dry in that first part of May, then you could very well be married to the water hose at the hip the entire summer. And even it gets even worse as you do it later on into the spring. So if you were to transplant one right now, you might be okay. But the longer you wait, the more of a risk and a roll of the dice that you have with having to water all the time throughout the summer for that first year, because those roots are going through a little bit of transplant shock, and that plant is it's in a new spot, right? Whether you're taking it out of a pot, straight from the nursery, whatever it may be. Trying to reduce the amount of shock and the amount of risk that you have for woody perennials in the landscape, you're probably better off suited to wait until the fall if you can. Now, I know I've dealt with some clients over the years that they just moved into a house or their house just got built, right? And so you kind of have to take all that with a grain of salt and say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and try it, but just know up front that it could be a little more difficult if you transplant a lot of your woody perennial species in the springtime rather than the fall, because we always have expected cooler temperatures and moisture coming in the fall of the year. It lets those plants root in over the wintertime a lot easier, and most of the time you don't have too many issues there. Not to say you won't in the springtime, but in my opinion, you just kind of roll the dice more and more the later into the spring you wait if you're going to add a new woody perennial to the landscape there. So that's just my 2 cents on that. You can take it or leave it, and some people have differing opinions, but over the course of my tenure here in Jefferson County, I've seen more and more issues with that In the last few years, when people plant stuff like that in the springtime, again, you might just be better off waiting until the fall and waiting and making an investment during that time of year. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap us up for our first audio update, is what I'm going to call the shorter episodes here. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'll be glad to come out and make a visit for you, whether it's on the farm or a home visit as well for a garden issue, things like that. Love to get out in the county and meet new folks. So if you have any questions or if you want to get a hold of me, just give me a call here at the office. Our office number is 865-397-2969. You can also email me at Ryan, ryan.brown@utk.edu. You can shoot me a message there as well. You can find us on Facebook, UT-TSU Extension, Jefferson County. And we will also be posting these podcasts on our YouTube channel. We'll have a specific playlist called Between the Fence Posts. You can go down through there and find the episodes as we bring them to you throughout this year. So we're really excited to have this podcast going on this year. Again, like I said, it's something new, something different, but it's the end thing right now. And so we're looking forward to talking with some different folks over throughout the course of this year and bringing you guys some cool and unique content, hopefully, that can help all sorts of people out there. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you at our next episode. Thanks so much.